So I had never really heard of cut golf balls until recently, and I was pretty excited to get my hands on them considering they were priced cheaper than a lot of the other balls on the market. So in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the cut golf balls and basically just sharing my honest thoughts after testing them out. But what we look for whenever we were testing them out, we pretty much tested them against multiple other kind of somewhat similar balls. I remember talking about how they compared. Was it just as long as others? And then how forgiving was the ball as well? We're also going to be talking about who this ball is actually best for and the cheapest place to pick it up. But before we get started, I was mentioning our gear giveaway. If you want to enter in, we do it every 1,000 subs. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment giveaway down below. Do those three things, you'll be automatically entered. So let's start off with control and forgiveness. But I am pretty sure these golf balls were made for the kind of average weekend golfer, considering the price. So just having something that's easy to control and is forgiving is a pretty important thing for this type of player. And I wouldn't necessarily say it was bad in these areas, but there were definitely other balls that performed better for me personally at, somewhat of a similar price. I was able to control the ball pretty good, and most of the time it was ended up where I wanted it to go. Obviously it's not always the case, but I wanted to see what it would do if I tried like putting a big hook or a big slice on the ball, because that's generally what most kind of average players would do. So I wanted to test it to see kind of like how far out there it would go, and it definitely did take off with me. So when I want to put a big hook or big slice on it, it definitely sliced or hooked pretty hard. And that's probably not the best thing for the weekend golfer. But the first thing I didn't really like was the feel of the ball at impact. This is more like a personal thing. It doesn't really impact the performance, but I do prefer a slightly softer ball and found this one was a little bit too firm. I noticed other people were saying it on like reviews or forums as well, but that was one thing I noticed right away. Some people are going to like that, some people don't. I prefer a slightly softer one, and I will link a video down below of my favorite golf balls for the average player, so I will leave a link for that down below if you want to watch that. But I do think most golfers could benefit from switching to like a softer golf ball that's more forgiving, and there are other balls on the market at a similar price that I do think are slightly better in my opinion. But let's jump over to distance and performance, and I wasn't really expecting a cheaper ball like this to be very long, but I was actually pretty surprised. It pretty much went just as far as any other ball I've tested, and that was the case for every single one of my clubs. So driver off the tee, fairway woods, wedges, all that kind of stuff was pretty much just as far as any other ball. The flight of the ball off the tee was awesome as well. I do find some balls fly either way too high or way too low, but the cut ball was somewhere in the middle and seemed to be just about perfect. So that was definitely a big plus in my mind. But with the wedge, it did feel pretty good and had a decent amount of stopping power on the green. It didn't have like the same amount of spin like a Pro V1 would have or anything like that, but it was respectable. I'm not able to spin it all the time. I'm not the best at it, but I can sometimes get a little bit. So compared to like a Pro V1, it wasn't close to that, but it definitely was able to put a little bit on there. My distance control on the greens was also fairly good, but it did feel a little bit too firm for me again. I could notice it pretty immediately right away compared to what I normally use. But again, it doesn't really impact the performance, it's more of a personal thing. But the one major issue I had with it was the durability. I don't normally mark up my balls very quickly, but even after like a few holes with this, it was getting nicked up pretty good. And I'm sure most weekend players, they're not going to want to be ordering new balls every sort of couple of weeks. They pretty much just play like whatever they have. They're not really worried about nicks. But this one here, it definitely did nick up really noticeably, and almost to the point where you wouldn't want to play it. So that was kind of the one major downside I could find with it. But let's jump over to the pros. So pros, the price point is great on this ball. It was just as long as any other ball I've tested. I was really impressed with the flight of the ball. Cons, it was a bit too firm for me. Most golfers could benefit from a more forgiving ball, and they get marked up very easily, and they are going to need to be replaced quite often. Breakdown, performance will give an 8 out of 10. Quality score 7, value score 8. So my personal score is going to be a 7.5, which isn't really the best if I'm being completely honest. But let's just do some frequently asked questions. So are vice or cut balls better? I'd say Vice balls are slightly better, and they do have more specific selection based on your game. So they do have different ones for, if you want a softer one, or if you want one for better players, that kind of thing. So there's more of a selection. Do they have a trial pack? Yes, they do. You can get like 3 balls for around like $7, I think it is. So you can try them out before you buy them. And would these be alright for someone with a faster swing speed? I would say probably not, simply because you're gonna cut them up pretty quickly. Maybe that's the reason they're called cut. I don't know, but that was one of the main downsides to it. One of the reasons why I wouldn't really use it myself. But overall, if you're in the market for a cheaper golf ball and you are considering the cut, then I'd probably recommend you try something else. You can always get their trial pack and give it a try just to see for yourself, but I didn't like the fact that they broke down so easily. The distance was great on it, and so was the ball flight, but they were a bit too firm for me, and the forgiveness wasn't quite there for the average weekend player. And this is always something that can be improved as time goes on, so I'm not really worried. So you may want to come back then in like a year or so, because that's what I'm going to do, and test them to see if they have improved in any way. But if you would like to see more images or more reviews, or pick it up for the lowest price available, if you do want to try it, click the link in the description down below. At the time of making this video, that was the cheapest place I could find it, so you can go ahead and check it on the current price. And if you do have any questions about it, just simply leave a comment down below. I will get back to you as soon as I can. But if you haven't already watched and commented on our latest video, click the video card to the left and get yourself another entry into our golf giveaway.